Alex, welcome. How are you?
I'm so good. And I have a tirade to unleash.
Oh, boy.
I am so excited to talk about MAHA today and just some crazy wins and also some really wild stuff that's down the pipeline that we should be concerned about. But I have a lot to say, so I literally wrote out last night. I stayed up writing all my notes because I was like, I have to be like on point and make sure I remember everything I want to say.
So I have to interrupt you first, okay? Alex Clark is one of our most amazing team members. She has been with Turning Point USA for 7 years. Six years. Alex was a morning radio host in Indiana. Tyler Boyer found you on Twitter, I believe, right? Or social media.
It's a little bit of a mixed story. So I came to YWLS in 2018.
Oh, did you really?
As an attendee.
Our Young Women's Leadership Summit. So when I say that our Young Women's Leadership Summit develops leaders, this is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. So I just came. I didn't know anybody. I literally went by myself. And then Turning Point had followed me on Instagram after that. And so Tyler's marketing team DM'd me and were like, hey, we'd love to work with you just as an ambassador. And I said, actually, I'd like to work for you and I have a show idea. So then that kind of got the ball rolling and Tyler was like, okay, because Turning Point had never done a show.
We had never done a show.
So I kind of pitched that idea and that was the very first show that Turning Point had ever done. I had created this pop culture show called Poplitics and that was the first thing. And so yeah, at the time, Tyler was overseeing it.
It was pop culture met politics at the time, right?
Yep.
And the pop culture without the propaganda.
That's right.
That was what it was, right?
Yeah, it was like E! News and Fox News if they had a baby. And like it had never been done. It was like really crucial. And this show got all of these young women through the pandemic. I mean, I was using celebrity entertainment stories to call out BLM and all of these things. And it was like a very digestible way for a young girl scrolling on social media to hear conservative ideas.
And so Alex made that super popular. And then Alex, you started to talk more and more about health and wellness. This is before the term MAHA ever existed. You were MAHA before MAHA. And so walk us through that whole journey towards now, just to kind of complete the story. Alex is without a doubt one of the most influential voices for young women in America and without a doubt in the whole wellness health space. So how did you go from pop culture without the propaganda to raw milk?
So one, I want to say that Turning Point USA and Charlie were one of the first really big supporters of MAHA, even because during the pandemic, I wasn't required to get the vaccine. And I had never...
I hope not, because I worked there too.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? So like Charlie immediately was like, we're not requiring our employees to have to get this, of course. And so I had never thought of anything in regards to big pharma before. I had actually never even heard that term. Like I grew up in the most conventional ultra processed food household ever, far from the raw milk lands of California and Indiana. Like, so I didn't know any organic food stuff. And so I'd never really cared about it. And then when the pandemic happened and they were mandating the vaccine, I was so gravely disturbed. I mean, I was unsettled in my spirit. I just immediately called it as demonic. It was demonic to tell people if you don't get this vaccine, you're not going to be allowed to participate in public life and public space. You're not going to be allowed in different businesses. You might have to lose your job. And so I went down the rabbit hole and I started reading everything I could about Monsanto and corruption in the American Heart Association and all these different things. And I wanted to talk about it with my audience. So I had transitioned from that pop culture show to doing a long form podcast where I was interviewing people, just anyone and everyone that had an interesting story or had an expertise that was countercultural. That was my first podcast with Turning Point. And I started kind of sneakily pivoting to doing mostly health and wellness interviews on that show. And then February of 2024, last year, I talked to Turning Point and I said, listen, I think I want to rebrand the entire show. I think the whole future of conservatism and the Republican Party with women is health and wellness. And it was kind of like deer in the headlights. Like everybody was like, what are you talking about?
I bought into it, for the record.
Charlie bought into it. So there was definitely some people that were like, I don't know, Alex. And Charlie, first of all, when I brought up, I want to do a pop culture show from a conservative perspective, Charlie said, let's do it. There was no hesitation. When I said, I want to do a health and wellness show and focus on this, Charlie said, absolutely. Actually, Charlie interrupted me. I didn't even finish my sentence talking about Culture Apothecary. And he was like, I don't understand the question. Yes. So like, it was amazing to have that support. And, you know, Charlie just said, look, everything that you have brought to Turning Point from Poplitics to now with Culture Apothecary, everything that you said we need to do to focus on young women has been right so far. So we trust you. You have full creative freedom, which not a lot of other conservative media companies can say. I will say that their talent doesn't get creative freedom like I have been given, which has been amazing. But, So I said, February 2024, let's focus on health at YWLS, our Young Women's Leadership Summit in June of 2024. I said on that stage, this is the future. If we want to win female voters, this is the stuff that we need to be talking about. It is so important to undecided female voters. 2 months later, RFK comes out, Glendale, Arizona, endorses President Trump and talks about, we're going to make America healthy again. And I was front row. First of all, Charlie was so generous and had hooked it up so that I could get to meet President Trump backstage, which is, if you've ever met him, it's like 2 seconds, you know, you're like, what is the one thing I'm going to say to impress him or have something to say? And I said, Mr. President, please keep talking about food and pharma. This is the biggest issue with undecided female voters. That's what I said. And he said, you're going to be very excited. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? And so then he walks out with RFK on stage, and I'm not kidding you. I'm front row and my jaw drops. I mean, it was like my reaction to Taylor Swift at the Eras Tour. I'm jumping up and down. My fist is pumping. Bricksuit, if you follow him on X, Bricksuit has a video of me. I'm just screaming the loudest I've ever screamed. And President Trump looks just at me and he points and he gives like a wink and a thumbs up. Like, I told you were going to be happy. So it was just so amazing. And so that happens, and I had planned, without knowing that RFK was going to partner with Trump. I had no idea that was going to happen, right? I didn't know that MAHA was going to be a thing. I just knew that I could see in my show downloads, when I talked about these issues, that my downloads were going crazy. I was like, oh, this is resonating with women, these topics. And so I wanted to keep at it. And MAHA goes off. I get invited to testify at the Senate with RFK in September. And the show, Culture Apothecary, I had just rebranded like 2 weeks prior. The show explodes. So much so that Charlie said to my team, there's no way these numbers are right. I need you to run them again. And my team said, Charlie, we've ran them 7 times.
It's true.
So the show just like goes crazy. It was the exact like cultural zeitgeist that we needed to like really appeal to people, because all of a sudden it was like, whoa, conservatives are talking about health and wellness. Well, who's doing that that's openly conservative? And it was like, me. So then a lot of people discovered me, and yeah, it's just been incredible. We have over 40 million downloads on the show and counting. Average episodes are getting like, well, I don't know. This is going to be broadcast, so I don't know if I'll say all that. But
your competitors are
listening.
Yeah,
I don't want to say all that. I'll keep that to the chest. But yeah, over 40 million downloads and counting. And just
so that's a big number, everybody. It's big.
Just this last month, between my Instagram and the show's Instagram, we have over 40 million views on our content. So just yeah, really wild stuff. And it's just been really exciting.
Well, and you've been an amazing warrior, Alex, and you've always been right. You know why Alex is right? She listens to her audience. She finds things that the media is ignoring, and then she goes all in on them. And they seem as if they're like niche issues. I believe that MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, was one of the reasons why Donald Trump won the popular vote, and one of the reasons why he ran the table in all 7 swing states.
Okay, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And so I have so much to say about this. When we were at the Young Women's Leadership Summit this past June, I had